Hello, everybody. My name is Joel Filderman, and welcome to the Dog Trainers Connection. I'm not a dog trainer. These people you see here are. And together they have over 150 years of experience in the dog training world. And we get together to discuss a topic based upon their knowledge and experience. And the topic that we're going to discuss today is bad advice. And I'll start it off. When we've done these in the past, I've liked to do research, and I'd like to look up, and I tend to start looking up those words. And what I looked up online was bad advice for dog trainers, bad advice for clients as dog trainers, things along those lines. And the interesting thing was that there wasn't anything in particular that I could find. And I thought to myself, well, now maybe this isn't the greatest topic, and et cetera. And then I started to think about it more, and I realized this is a very important topic. Because like with children, when we as people get bad advice, it affects us. But with dogs and dog training, when our clients get, or your clients get bad advice, it affects the animals. And in the same way that it affects a kid or whatever, it's going to affect their life. And so I realized that it's definitely an important topic. And I also realized that it can be a really broad topic. And I think one of the things that I'd like to do in this discussion today is limit the topic a little bit. I don't want to necessarily talk about medical things and drugs, because as we all know, that can be a whole thing in itself. I think that what I'd really like to discuss today is, from a training standpoint, what's bad advice? And also, there's a lot of information that's out there. There's a lot of information that, right or wrong, is out there and is affected. And is there something that you as trainers either learned along the way that was bad advice, or have come to realize that you thought that was bad advice, but it's actually good advice? There's a lot of different ways to go with this. And I'm actually just going to throw this out there today. I'm not going to start with anybody. I'm going to ask who'd like to start.
I'll start.
Go ahead, Dennis.
Well, to add a little humor, somebody did recommend years ago that I become a dog trainer. So I just wanted to get that off the page.
So that's your bad advice.
That's my bad advice.
Okay.
No, I think one of the things that I've come across, over the years is when people like a lot of the Facebook groups, a lot of the dog training groups, there'll be people talking about their dogs, like it could be a really bad aggression cases, and then somebody offering advice without never even meeting the dog, evaluating the dog, or looking at the dog's environment. And then I see these things kind of go really south. You got a dog that may have really done damage to another dog, a child, an adult, and right away somebody is giving advice what they should be doing. And so I just say, if a client calls me, I cannot give you any advice until I actually meet the dog. So because that whatever advice you're giving may not, you can't generalize, everything. So that dog or that person, you may be giving really, really bad advice until you actually meet the dog.
Wow.
To Dennis's point, that's what I was going to actually say, where any advice could eventually be considered bad advice if it's given out of a place of lack of knowledge, or you don't have any specifics of the case, and you recommend a process or a protocol without really knowing anything about it. That could eventually be considered bad advice, even if it comes from a place where you think you're providing help or good advice. So yes, to Dennis's point, it's important to get some knowledge and to qualify your advice.
Right. You need to have context.
Yes. I want to touch on a specific topic because I've been thinking about this pretty much all week. Because I think there's a lot of bad advice out there. I think any advice that's given as a generality may be okay, but on a specific topic, I think in as it relates to my business, I find that one of the more common pieces of advice that dog owners get, it's regarding puppies. It has to do with vaccination versus socialization.
Yes.
Right. So
Yep.
for so
Bingo.
many years, vets have been recommending pretty strictly to their clients not to let your puppy around other dogs or in any public areas until it's fully vaccinated. Now, that's a whole other story, fully vaccinated. But basically, the course is the puppy would be done its full vaccinations around 5 months, around 20 weeks of age, maybe a little bit earlier. But if you don't socialize your dog during that critical learning period of 8 to 18 weeks, you run a potential of not only missing out on creating a dynamic for that dog that'll benefit it for the rest of its life, but you may end up into a situation where you can't fix some of the problems because you weren't there early enough to address some signs of fear or aggression or what have you. So I know that the latest, all the talk, the latest stuff on the internet, and there's a lot of good advice going around about, consider socializing your dog and not just falling into the strict full vaccination before you get your dog around any other dogs. I mean, most puppies come out of the womb pretty much with antibodies from the colostrum they get from the milk in the very beginning. So they're covered for the first few weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. So in my world, because I deal with the aftermath of people who aren't socializing their puppies early enough, because we deal with a lot of gun-dog problem cases. So I think that it's bad advice to strictly adhere to that and to do your own due diligence and kind of, obviously you're not going to bring your 6-week-old or 7-week-old puppy to the city dog park, but that doesn't mean you can't seek out some friends with other dogs or find a way to get your puppy socialized and desensitized to sights and sounds and other people and other dogs pre-18 weeks. So that the risk reward, I think, on it is greatly skewed, and it's much more beneficial to socialize your dog early than it is to worry about the vaccinations.
How prevalent is that? How many people don't know that?
A lot of people don't know it.
It's extremely prevalent. Every veterinarian in the area where I am tells people not to let their puppy around other dogs, they're even saying don't let them outside. So, filling a puppy kindergarten can be quite the challenge. And, that's despite what the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior says. They have a position statement on this. That you should get your puppy socialized, that puppies can start puppy kindergarten as early as 7 to 8 weeks. People do not know this. And once their vet says, do not take the puppy out, that's what they adhere to. And despite my trying to convince them otherwise, they're not going to listen to me. It's my #1 pet peeve as far as bad advice goes. I have a second one. Well, since it was already discussed. My other pet peeve on bad advice is telling people, anybody who tells people, attributing behaviors to dominance. Your dog is, jumping on you. Oh, he's trying to dominate you. He runs out the door ahead of you. Oh, he's trying to dominate you. He's humping you. He's trying to dominate you. I mean, this concept that
he wants to be the alpha.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. This concept that our dogs are out to conquer the world and be the alpha. And then the response to that is people treat their dog, I think, either more forcefully or more harshly than they need to. And it doesn't really get the message across anyway, because that's not what the dog was doing in the first place. This whole concept of dominance, between dogs there can be dominance displays here and there, but labeling everything as dominance, or even labeling a dog as dominant, because there's no such thing. Dominance is fluid. It's fluid, it's situational, and it's not interspecies, it's intra amongst dogs. So those are my two pet peeves. The sequestering the puppy and blaming everything on dominance.
So before you go, Steve, let me just throw something out there, which is that, you know, you both have talked about, or you've all talked about different things. And so my question is, as a layperson, as not a trainer, is so what can you guys do to get this information out there more than it is now? And I don't know if there's an answer to that. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, just kicking back to the dominance thing for a second. You know, it wasn't that many years ago that the categories of aggression were defined, and I think well defined. As you see, you call it this when you see this, you call it that when you see that. And, you know, these things were defined by the veterinary behaviorists in the day, and dominance-related aggression is definitely a category. You may not see it all that often, and I'm with you. You know, unfortunately, television has brought everything to be about power struggles, and while I see dominance as being, as you say, fluid when it comes to dog relationships for the most part, sometimes when it comes to aggression within family and family members, you can diagnose a dog as a dominantly aggressive dog. I know also that veterinary behaviorists today would prefer to use the word conflict-related aggression for just about everything. Okay. And I can see where that basically makes some sense, because if you got bit, there was a conflict, right? So, you know, that's the way they were, because they're trying to avoid, and don't ask me why, they were the team that came up with these categories in the first place. So what make them wrong 10 years later? You know, I mean, I got a little issue with that. Also, when it comes to socialization, the AVMA, I mean, we can go back probably more than 10 years. The AVMA recommended that puppies be formally socialized before 12 weeks. That's not the behavioral people, that's the whole damn AVMA. And still, we struggle with local veterinarians not presenting to their clientele the behavioral information that's necessary to raise up social friendly dog.
Well, if the governing veterinary body can't get the word out to all the veterinarians to change their rhetoric, then how are we as trainers going to get that out?
Well,
we got to work with the clients and not with the vets, because we're not, you know, obviously we don't have a lot of say with our, I mean, I have a great relationship with my vets and the ones I work with, and they take my advice and I take their advice. But as a general rule, we all know that we're not giving advice to veterinarians.
Well, that's because we're not selling vaccines.
Sure.
I hate to say that, but, you know, I mean, I've got people who, you know, the vet wants to give them a Bordetella vaccine for any little thing. And I'm like, relax. You know, I mean, I don't know how many of you got the flu this year and got the flu anyway, but that's what's going on.
Right? Oh, I did.
So,
I have 13 dogs. They've never had the Bordetella vaccine, and they all live in the kennel environment, and they've never had kennel dogs. So,
you know, there's a lot of, it's complicated, because the veterinarians is being told by the people that they're buying their vaccines from, oh no, these vaccines will work, but you will suggest that these puppies get no stimulation, which is ridiculous. But, you know, we're still in that world. And just one more thing, back in the 1960s, I have this in my archives, is an article written by Captain Arthur Haggerty in the 1960s, talking about the benefit of early socialization in dogs. So you know, there were dog trainers, or, you know, he was the captain, and then the AVMA. I mean, you would think that we would not be in this position that we are, but if you have a good relationship with your referral base and you say to them, look, you can tell them what you're going to tell them, and I'm going to have to say what I have to say, and, you know, hopefully it'll be all right. Do I tell my clients there may be a risk if they take their dog out? Yeah, maybe there is, but there's a bigger risk that you'll raise up a freakazoid if you don't take it out. So
absolutely,
to decide what to do. You know, that's my piece. I'm going to shut up now, Joe.
You know, I think that the vaccination and the socialization is interesting, but I think also one of the things that you brought up is about what Helen brought up about the the aggression and the conflict. And you mentioned something about the TV people, and I know I was talking with somebody recently, and I was talking with them, and they were saying, oh yeah, and I want to possibly train my dog, and no, there's this great, you know, I'm a big follower and so we all know who I'm talking about, and we'll leave it at that. And you know, and I was like, okay, but that's not necessarily what you need. And I think a lot of it comes down to is that it's not necessarily what you need, whether it be vaccinations or this or that or the other thing. I'm not 100% certain. Jeff, do you have something you want to?
Sure, I'll chime in. So it is a pretty general topic, bad advice, and I guess I'll just touch base on a few things that were mentioned. Socialization suicide, I agree with everyone. I mean, I can't say it irritates me because it keeps me busy. You know, like Brian, I get the aftermath of unsocialized puppies. So, you know, it keeps me busy and it's good for business. As it relates to any dog owners who are watching, it is socialization suicide to avoid other animals at early development stages. I'll leave that there because everybody else certainly touched on it. You know, I mean, if people did two things, if they socialized their dogs and stimulated them properly, all of us would not have a job. It's that simple. I mean, you know, just about anybody can teach their dog, sit down, come and stay. And if every dog was socialized properly and they're stimulated on a daily basis, there would be absolutely no need for us. And I can't say enough how important socialization is, not for 3 months to 8 months of age, but for the 15 years of your dog's life. I am so emphatic that it's that important. And, you know, Brian hit the nail on the head, and I share the same thing with my clients. You know, if you're that afraid by what your vet is saying, you've got to get a handful of people who you know they have healthy dogs, get them around, male, female, large, small, get them around them as much as you possibly can during those early development stages. As far as, you know, dominance, I absolutely agree that dominance and aggression are two words that are thrown around way too much. Okay. I have a little bit different opinion on the word dominance. You know, I personally believe that dominance absolutely exists. It's there. Here's the thing, though. I think it needs to be defined. And we'll start there. Is, you know, a dominant dog is a confident dog. A confident dog is a balanced dog. And we never see them because we're dog trainers. They generally live a pretty balanced life, and they usually resolve things in their household, their family unit, non-physically, you know, like a quote unquote dominant, you know, wild dog may, avoiding conflict and thinking of the family unit as a whole. That's my interpretation of a dominant dog, and we rarely see them because they rarely have the behavioral issues that we need to address. You know, I think anxiety issues are oftentimes blamed on dominance. So that's kind of my little take. And maybe it's just my, you know, my interpretation of a dominant dog. When I hear the word, when someone says I have a dominant dog and they're calling me for help, I'm like, no, you don't. Okay. I've seen, like, and I'll call them confident because that's my view of the word dominance. When I see a confident, balanced dog, like, they got it. Everything's under control, especially if it's a multi-dog household. There's no conflict. Everything is in harmony. That's kind of my view of that. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but
yes, it does.
Maybe I don't view dominance as what we see on TV or videos on the internet with dogs getting rolled and all that kind of stuff. I view dominance as a very positive thing. It's a valuable trait in a very confident, balanced, socialized dog. That's my interpretation of it. So maybe that's why I see things a little differently. You know, and I've seen some dogs where you look at them and, I mean, they carry themselves differently than some of the other dogs that they're around. And again, we don't see them because we see problem dogs, you know, generally. So that's my little spiel. It's you know, just a little spin on it. Maybe it's just my view of the situation, but I do believe, you know, I agree with Helen that it's way too many things are blamed on dominance, and way too many things are blamed on aggression, when generally, if you're going to generalize behaviors and you're going to use one word, I prefer anxiety, because anxiety can really be a catch-all. And granted, I'm a root cause personality, so I need to find the root cause of things. But for generalization purposes, anxiety can cover a lot of things. And most times there is an anxiety somewhere in the dog's life that needs attention. So, and then the only other thing I wanted to bring up as far as a general statement on bad advice, because there's so many different dog trainers out there. There's so much information out there. You know, people oftentimes are, you know, they're hitting the net and they're trying to find solutions to their problems. So I guess a catch-all for bad advice is this, and this is, you know, for dog owners who are watching this. If it does not improve your relationship with your dog, and it does not improve your dog's quality of life, it's bad advice. Period. Okay, so if I'm going to generalize anything,
that's good advice.
That's
yeah. You know, so I mean, that's why we do what we do, right? We want to improve people's relationships with their pets, and we want to improve their pets' quality of life. I mean, at least that's why I do what I do. You know, whether it's dog training or rescue, that's why I do what I do. So if the things you are doing are not achieving that, then it's bad advice. So I'll shut up.
Here,
Oh, that was good.
That was a good note to end on.
Joel, could I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention something when you guys were talking about socializing puppies. I was fortunate with my dog in Manhattan over 20 years ago that I had a trainer who said, I was like, no, I can't take her out. I went downstairs, put her on a mat in front of my house so her feet never touched the ground, but people passed, dogs passed. So she helped me figure out a creative way to get my dog Ingrid socialized. So maybe for pet owners, and if pet owners are watching this, you could talk to your trainer about, okay, can you help me come up with a creative way to get my dog meeting people and or dogs? So maybe there are some things we could think about to address that creatively with our clients that they wouldn't be so fearful about.
I really think we have to be more educators than, you know, we really have to get out there and educate people. You know, there's this thing in Gene Donaldson's book, The Culture Clash, where it says, it's like one of the first paragraphs where it says, we need to be filling stadiums with this information rather than just little small local groups. You know, these classes that we hold in these little secret meetings, and we're not getting it out enough. And to touch on Jeff's stuff about bad advice, I think that's an interpretation as far as if it's improving the dog's life or the owner's life. Somebody could recommend a shock collar or a prong collar, and to that person, if now they can walk that dog without getting pulled, or that.
Oh no!
About that, guys. Sorry about that. If that person can now walk their dog, or if they can walk past another dog and the dog isn't barking, well, to them it may be good advice, but to us it may not be good advice. So I think it's going to be an interpretation of what the client is thinking good advice is. Well, this person recommended a shock collar, now my dog doesn't bark at other dogs. I'm not going to recommend it, but to that person it could be good advice. So I think we have to, I think we really have to do more educating and just get out there and just educate more. Everybody's got a different opinion of what bad or good advice is, and if it allows that client to do what they're doing with their dog, you know, it may not be improving the quality of that dog's life, but, you know, it may be improving the client's life. So that's something we have to look at. If that makes any sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
Perspective.
Yeah.
Argumentative, though.
Yep.
And
Well, it certainly opens up a line of argument.
hey,
Yep.
But that blends my question back, which I had started a little bit ago, where I said, so how do you get that advice out there? How do you get that information out there?
well, but the thing is, you know, if 6 of us, you know, don't necessarily agree on let's say tools or strategy, then don't you think if it's harder for your average client, right? Now, you know,
Yep.
I would say that, you know, if advice given that actually works with, you know, for both the dog and the client is good advice. You know, if you're a humane trainer, and I'm not talking about tools, because I think you can actually be a very humane trainer no matter what tool you use. And the dog that's trained with a remote collar may actually gain a lot more freedom and have a much better life because he's under some form of real control. How you use the tool is more important than the tool itself, if you ask me. I wouldn't put, you know, some of these tools in your average person's hand, but among us as professionals, I think that, you know, I read stuff every day that batters, and Bonnie knows we've done this thing, you know, face to face in a room, and it got ugly at times, but, you know, I'm going to stick with, if you're thoughtful and mean, it's not about the tool. It's about how you train, you know, how you feel. And you know, it's all, as I think we all agree, this is about for the dog to be okay in the end and the client to be okay as well. You know, we don't want to hurt any dogs, that's for darn sure. But how we get it done, if we get it done, and in the end, the client is thrilled and the dog is happy as hell, we gave good advice, right? You may not like the advice somebody else gave, but maybe it worked for them. You know, I mean, maybe it worked where everybody's okay, despite the fact you might have done it a different way. Can we agree on that, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because if we can't, you know, if we can't, your average dog watching owner is watching this and they're like, you know, but it's like, well, look, I think that all of us also, I mean, I don't know, I might be the most compulsive guy around, but I would say anybody who trains a dog by negativity just hasn't evolved at this point. You know, training should be a positive experience. End of story. And then comes the, okay, now we need this to be reliable, or this really counts. This depends on, you know, that the animal really performed pretty well, best as one can, you know, and as you start building up, sometimes things become a little trickier in terms of training, you know, who you training. I mean, we know most of our clients aren't that talented. No matter what we say, they're not going to do half the things we recommend anyway.
Those are your clients, Steve, not ours.
Yeah.
These people, you know, it's not so easy.
No.
No, it's not.
So, Joyce or David, you haven't said much. You have anything to say on this topic?
One thing I would just mention is I would, you know, agree with pretty much everything that everyone has said so far, and just to kind of go on what Helen was saying in terms of the American veterinary side of animal behavior.
Can't hear you,
Yeah,
David.
you're gonna have to get closer.
American veterinary side of animal behavior likes to kind of jump on the bandwagon when people were talking about that. It may not be a fix, but it might be something in the right direction where just, you know, the people that have the dogs can go in and print off their position statement online. And I've told them just take that statement and bring it to your vet. With that position statement, but they should at least inspect it because it is coming from someone like yourself. So you're really not telling them that their vet is wrong. You're just basically saying, here, this is, you're presenting it here. This is what they say, you know, and you're kind of saying someone say. And the other thing too I mentioned is the fact that if you think about it, they're concerned about the dog contracting some kind of disease, and like I can't recall who had mentioned it, but there's a higher chance of the dog having issues, socialization issues, past that sensitive period, and being relinquished to the street or a shelter or whatever, than the dog dying from some kind of disease that it can be treated. So I tell them, look, if you think about people going to a hospital or dogs going to a vet, why are they going? Typically, or oftentimes, they're sick. So vaccinated or not vaccinated, they're going to essentially contract and just take them to the vet. So yeah, that's my thought on that. You know.
Good point.
Joyce, you got anything you want to add?
Fascinating. No, you guys are really coming up with some of the typical things we all think of when we think of bad advice that's going on out there. Is the socialization aspect, of course. I think one of the things I struggle with is, especially in this area, the Deep South, is where people go to get their advice. I think one of the worst places anybody can go, and I'll tell my vet this right to their face, is to the vets. Most of them are not well educated in behavior.
Yep.
And if you happen to find one that has taken the time to get some of their continuing education units in behavior, you're really lucky. And it's nice to have them understand the stuff that we do. And so it's, I find it it's really sad when somebody comes from their vet with really either antiquated old advice of flip that dog, or you got to show that dog who's boss. That dog is trying to dominate you, which I hear a lot. To you, the behavior specialist, and you're having to say something totally different than what a veterinarian said. So I'm fortunate that I'm very close to a veterinarian who's very high level behavior educated. And so we have great conversations, and I can send people to her and she can send people to me, and we understand each other completely. But that's not the norm. As I go to, I'm educating them if they're, and and the advice that they're giving their clients is sometimes very disheartening for me. And a lot of puppies, they get that social, so you're done with your vaccination. And so the average puppy I get in my play care is about 6 months old, and they're devils. They're very hard to fit into the play groups already. And then the behavior advice they're giving is sometimes detrimental to a scared dog if they have a fearful dog. And that dog is already leaning towards showing aggression because of that fear. And then I have to come in and, of course, talk a different spiel to this person who admires their vet greatly and respects them, and is wondering why I'm saying something totally different. So I think one thing I could say to people is, if you have a health problem, go see your vet. If you have a behavior problem, find a qualified behavior expert. And they're two different things. There can be crossover, of course. I just sent one of my clients to the vet today because I believe there's an underlying physical condition that I'm not qualified to handle, of course. But we should be working in tandem and staying within our field of expertise. And I just don't feel that most veterinarians' field of expertise is behavior. And we'll do it. People will have much more positive effect, if they know that and they understand that. And then we work very closely with our veterinarians. I don't know if any of you have started to study the Fear-Free program that's out there, that's fully supported by the AVMA and AHA. But I'm this close to getting my certification, and I've been talking to some of the vets, and it's about a 20% know about it and are interested in it, and 80% could care less. So we've got a big selling point to do there to the veterinarians as well. But we're supported very publicly by the AVMA and AHA, which is a good thing.
What exactly is that, Joyce?
It's called Fear-Free, and it's actually was first promoted to the veterinarians for their offices and their staff, so that they could work with their clients to develop a better program where dogs and cats don't have to suffer through FAS, which is fear, anxiety, and stress during make it better for their staff, as well as to make it better for the animals. And gradually, Fear-Free has been expanded to trainers. Now there's a certification for trainers, and soon they're coming up with certifications for boarding facilities and daycare facilities as well. So it'll be all encompassing. Very high level, though. It's not for everybody. Just to do the qualification test, you better know your science.
Really?
not teaching sitting down. You've got to know the all of the, you know, the terminology and the, you know, the different operant conditioning versus classical conditioning, and, you know, just all the ins and outs and in betweens. And the qualifying test is harder than the actual certification test that you take.
You done?
They're serious about having people help these veterinarians and their clients to have more enjoyable visits, so that everybody, you know, the whole medical process can go easier. And the studies they've done with the offices informed is that it's really benefiting the veterinarian business.
Interesting.
Which the vets like.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think Marty Becker is, you know, sort of grasped onto that thing. But I think, you know, really have to look at Sophia Yin, right? Yeah, at the end of the day, this is a Sophia Yin thing, you know, and then Marty sort of, I think, is riding that train with this thing. But I mean, honestly, I know a couple of these fear-free animal hospitals now. You know, there's probably only 5,000 in the whole country, I hear. But I've got clients that tell me their animals were handled kind of gruffly in a fear-free environment. So it's nice to have this, and I mean, they've got a sign there and everything. We're a fear-free hospital. They've got lamps and couches and soft lighting. And I asked the vet, I'm like, what happens if a cat gets all squirrely and stuff? He said, I'll send it home. It'll come back another day. And I'm like, but it's sick. He said, Steve, I'm telling you, we're going to work this out. We got nice classical music playing and stuff like that. I'm like, well, I've worked in the animal hospital a lot of years, you know. I don't think a cat might care, you know. But maybe. I love the idea. I hope it really like does work out. It's time that catch a break.
The focus is for the from the beginning on up. It's going to have to become a transition, not a let's fix all. It's like us, you know. You're not going to take a 10-year-old dog and make it a new dog.
Right.
But we can start to get our information out there to puppy owners, and we can start changing the process with puppies. Then we will have a new generation of more well-behaved, well-socialized, well-rounded puppies that come in, that turn into dogs. And so it's the same for veterinarians. They've got to change their methods so that their clientele can change.
Mindset, as Steve said, yeah. So I'm going to ask at this point if anybody has anything that they still want to add to this, or if there's anything that they want to discuss that we haven't discussed. And it looks like not. So I think this is a good place to end. I think it was a very interesting conversation, and I certainly learned some things from it, and I hope that everybody who's watching this has as well. And I hope you join us for our next video, and we'll see you then. Bye now.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.